As the writer, I will have input on a cover, but ultimately I'm not the person making the decisions. Hi, I'm Michael Tanner. I'm a comic book writer, best known for the young adult survival horror graphic novel series Junior Braves of the Apocalypse, and I'm a co-writer on a new series called Orcs in Space.
Hi, I'm Don Wynn. I am a comic book artist and creator. I'm known as the creator of Pablo the Gorilla. A lot of people know me for helping Punisher co-creator Jerry Conway with his BLM fundraiser. I did the BLM Skullfist design, and I'm also a sketch card artist. I was part of the Marvel anime inaugural set.
Okay, so in a cover, if I'm browsing a comic book shop and I'm looking at the on the shelves there's got to be something that just grabs my eye. Usually, I'm very color focused. So if it's kind of color combinations that I find appealing, like kind of a orange and teal, or like green and red, something that draws my eye to it, that'll get me to do a first glance. And then when I focus more closely on it, I am a big fan of covers that will give me a sense of what the story is of the issue. If it's just a cover that is like, here are these characters, I'm not necessarily going to be more drawn to that. So I'm definitely like, tell me a story in that cover. That's really what's going to draw me to a book and want to pick it up.
Uh, Following up and adding to what Michael said, I definitely agree with that. When I walk into a shop and I'm looking around, I've been shopping, I feel like almost primarily based on covers. I would say probably 60 to 70% of the time, because I actually have been reading a lot of the comics I buy because I don't have time. And what draws me right away is if the story lays down what I feel is, or the cover lays down what I feel is going to be the story. And the story, I feel, holds a certain amount of imagination. And then, of course, being an artist, the other thing I look for in a cover is the cover design elements. Michael talked about the use of color. I also like to look at the use of negative, positive space, angles, directions, how it moves my eye, things that will grab and things that pop right away. One of my favorite covers, I believe, is, I want to say it's Batman 880. It's the super famous Joker cover where the bats are like flying out of his face. You see that, and immediately you're just like, what's going on with that cover? That cover to me is just perfectly executed in terms of what he wanted to do. And I've heard him talk about it when he first did it. He was just like, oh, it's okay. And then when he got to viewing it on the second time around, he was like, oh, I guess I did do something great. And it's covers like that make you come back to look at them, that I think is what pulls me to a cover.
As the writer, I will have input on a cover, but ultimately I'm not the person making the decisions. But I like to give my input on cover. The artist will draw it, and then sometimes they'll listen to me, sometimes they won't, depending on what the project is. Sometimes I like to give reference photos or pictures to artists to kind of get like, this is the kind of energy I'm going for. Sometimes it's an homage, sometimes it's just a feeling. For my self-published book, Strike Team Codename Diamond Force, the cover was meant to be an homage to the kinds of movies the comic itself was an homage to. So I sent the artist, Lucas Kowalczyk, the movie poster for a movie called After the Fall of New York. Very iconic grindhouse exploitation movie poster, and he adapted it perfectly into what we were doing in that comic. And then something like Orcs in Space, because that's coming out through a publisher, like the artist draws a cover, and as a writer, I'm kind of largely kind of left out of that. I get approval, but there's not a lot that I'm going to be like, no, redraw that, put that character over there. There's not a lot of direction I'm going to give on that. So in cases of like self-published, I'm going to be more invested and really try to like pick something that I think is going to pop on a shelf or on a Kickstarter page, as it were. With something that goes through a publisher, I have less input, some input, but it's really a matter of trusting the publisher to like pick a cover that's really going to stand out.
And it's funny that we're coupled together, Michael, because I actually owe you a sketch for a cover for a project that we're working on, and I'll be getting that to you soon. But it's just like you said, from my perspective as an artist, I want to create something that pops, that sings, that will grab your eye right away. And I want it to relate back to the story as much as possible. So actually for the cover that we're going to be working on, I think I've sent you 2 samples and you've given me notes, and so I get the chance and I'm finished with some of the artwork that I'm working on right now, I'll be looking to do exactly that, which is to execute thumbnails that I've already shown to Michael that I feel are representative of the story that we're trying to tell, and I think hold the moment, not a definitive moment necessarily, but a moment from the story that we're trying to tell, and in such a way that will be able to just pop off the page right away. I'm going to talk about the Orcs in Space cover, which I love. Michael had shown me this cover a little while back, and I thought it was hilarious, especially since you get the central characters, which right away, you're a Star Trek fan, you're like, oh, it's an homage to Star Trek. 2 guys show up to a planet, and now they're surrounded by orcs. But the best part is, right away, even though they're centered, they're not the central characters. It's like, here are the orcs. Let's get this on. And I just love the expressions. It's colorful, it's animated, it moves you. You can tell that kudos to the colorist on this cover, by the way. I mean, the artwork is fantastic, but I love the use of colors. You get the logo in green, and then the green picks up all throughout to help move your eye throughout the cover. And that's one of the things we're talking about. In comics, you're always trying to move the eye and direct the eye, and the cover should be that same thing. And this cover just pops. It sings. I love pink. I love green. The older I get, the more appreciative of colors and color combinations you get. And color theory totally plays a huge role in that, especially if you're coming up and you want to be an indie creator, an indie artist in comic books, a colorist. You have to have a strong foundation in that, I feel. And even though I'm doing it, I don't necessarily feel that I'm the strongest. There are better people, and I want to be at a point in my career where I can afford to hire those amazing people. But yeah, this cover really sings. I think it speaks to what is going to be in the book. I want to pick this book up because I think it's going to be funny, and we're going to get moments like this, and the juxtaposition of expressions from the reconnaissance team, if you will, versus the orcs, and how the orcs are portrayed. I think it's hilarious.
Okay, now here's my thoughts on Pablo the Gorilla cover. All right, again, we're getting into like the color. I'm not going to say it's color theory because that would be just me talking out my ass, because I don't know if that's actually color theory. But the purple and white, the stark contrast, and Don mentioned earlier, like the use of negative space and like playing with space. Like the white really draws your eyes to the center focus of the kind of purple cloud, which then is broken up by Pablo himself right in the center with his white kind of breaking up the purple tones. And I love LA skyline. I'm a huge LA nerd. I love Los Angeles, and I love anything that uses Los Angeles. So that skyline there, palm trees, the buildings, is perfect. The story being told like that, we have this ominous, clearly villainous figure looming over the city and looming over Pablo, is really telling us like that this is a central kind of through line of the story. I also like the detail of like, is Pablo's bike crashed? Is it just pulled over? Is the pizza falling out like just cool imagery, or is that also part of the story? Like, does this devil figure ruin Pablo's pizza delivery? I don't know. I'm going to pick up this book and I'm going to find out when I look inside it. I did not catch the Louis Vuitton referencing in the lettering. I just thought it was like a cool like a cool visual motif, but that's very cool to find out. I also did not pick up on the Laker vibes of the purple and yellow, which now that you say that, I'm like that fits, that works. Yeah, the composition of this cover, I really love. I think it really works, color and shape, everything.
Ooh, thank you. Also, it's a nod to the Migos album cover too.
Ah,
So that was I felt like it was a great album.
thank you for having me on. I'm Michael Tanner. Please pick up Orcs in Space at your local comic book shop. Check out Junior Braves The Apocalypse. Also, check out my podcast here on the Grand Geek Gathering Network. The show is called Burn After Pitching. It's a comedy pitching podcast. Yeah, that's all for me.
Hi, once again, I am Don Wynn. Thank you so much to Tyler and the Grand Geek Gathering team for having me on. I appreciate it. And for coupling me with Mr. Michael Tanner, a guy who I hold near and dear to my heart, especially since we're working on a project together. You can find me at almost all social media outlets. I'm at Winning It. That's my last name, the most common Vietnamese last name, Nguyenningit. I have a project I'm currently working on called Retro with Mr. Aaron Lindenthaler. It's both a comic and a live action piece that we're going to be putting out, so please be on the lookout for that. Also, I will be having an art show at the Atomic Basement July 11th in Long Beach, California. And please come find me at conventions, which are slowly coming back. I will be at Rose City Comic Con in September. A week after that is FanX Salt Lake City. And please come find me in October if you're in Baltimore, Maryland. I will be at Baltimore Comic Con.